Welcome to the show. It's deep with a twist. We're laughing through the scriptures where humor coexists. Cultural, come on and take a seat. It's faithful and it's fun wherever it meets me. Dive into the stories. Hear the podcast call. It's Mormon stuff with a smile in the cultural hall.
Starting, whose podcast is this?
Hey,
welcome to the This Week in welcome listeners.
It's the episode
This
of the
Week in
Cultural
Mormons.
Hall.
No, there's nothing wrong with
crossover.
your audio at this
What
time.
is happening?
We
Why
are
are
just
we both
confused
talking at the same time?
who the host is.
What
Obviously, I'm the host.
Well, I've been doing it at least 4 years longer than you, so we could go there.
Oh.
Seniority.
Oh, but my brand has been around a little bit longer, hasn't it, Richie?
Leading Saints? No, it was leading LDS before.
No, I don't own Leading Saints. I own This Week in Mormons. So,
the weekly win for Satan? Yes. Yes, you do. You do, in fact, own that.
Hey, you know what? We all have our thing.
Sure.
Okay. I don't need your judgment.
Don't you?
Well, okay, a little bit. That's what
Yeah.
friends are for. But,
yeah, for good times and bad times, because I'll be on your side forevermore. It's a
Amen.
crossover episode
That's right.
where we're doing this for the Cultural Hall and for This Week in Mormons.
That's right. And I'm not a regular host on This Week in Mormons, but
Sure.
it'd be fun. I thought it'd be fun to collaborate and do a simulcast, as the kids call it.
Yeah, people will hate every bit of this, right?
And they already hate my podcast, so here we go.
Sure. One thing I'd like to point out about you and about Leading Saints, great. Man, you guys always are putting out so much stuff. I'm trying to get caught up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's not designed for you to listen to every episode, other than for good friends like you, Richie.
No.
You do it, man, and I appreciate it.
It's a topic-based thing, right? Oh, I want to
Yeah.
find out about teaching the youth, and then you get into the whole youth track of stuff. But
That's right.
yeah,
That's right. But
I try and keep caught up, and it's nearly impossible.
we had one recently, which I was listening to the Culture Hall a few weeks back, and you were talking about the new symbol that the church is using for their chapels, like on Google Maps.
Yeah, it's called a cross, Kurt. It's not new.
Yes. Mhm,
Yeah,
mhm.
it's not
a symbol.
new.
It's
Yeah.
a symbol.
Sure.
It's not new, but it's new for us, right?
Sure.
And I thought I was screaming at my phone saying, "Richie, you gotta listen to this episode," but you were just behind and you listened to it. And it's from all reports, you said you enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was very informative. Enjoyed. Let's not toss that in there. I found it going as you did for me. Why didn't I listen to this before I talked about it? But great. We'll leave a link for that in the show notes so people can check that out. This Week in Mormons, as you indicate, been around a little bit longer than the Cultural Hall, but that's fine.
Yeah, it's fine. We still be friends.
I mean, it's not at all who started it.
No,
but if you want to
Jeff and
continue
Al.
to, if you want to continue to claim,
even though they're very much alive and well.
sure,
But
the brand is still longer or whatever. You're more than welcome to do that. Whereas I, with the Cultural Hall, April 6th, 2011, you can follow me on a journey through 2 wives, a child, and many other adventures. And it's just been me. You're not going to find somebody else. I didn't sell out, Jeff.
I think that's right, Jeff. Made me poor, made him rich, but hey, I got the brand. But I think it is evidence of your mental health stamina, Richie, because most people go crazy at this point, and
Sure.
You've just always been crazy, I guess, right?
Yeah. Yes. I've been able to hide it.
Nice.
Turn it off. Push
You
it
can't.
down.
You can't quit the Culture Hall.
No.
I mean, it is part of you. And if you did, like, if you came to me and said, "All right, Kurt, I'm packing it in. You want this brand too?" I'd be like, "No, Rich, I can't be Richie."
Yeah. The T in Richie T stands for the Cultural Hall. So that's how much.
It's literally
is-
your middle name.
Yeah, it's literally my
Yeah.
middle name.
Yeah. But hey,
So
many people appreciate it. I know they don't. The more need to email you at contact at the Culture Hall,
yeah,
or what is
Yeah.
that?
yeah, it's contact@theculturalhall.com. It's fine.
And say, Richie, keep going, and just keep growing this thing. So it's worth it.
Yeah. It was super worth it. Tons of money rolling in it. Scrooge McDuck
Mhm.
type money. Jumping in it.
That's right. Anything to report from your life, Richie?
Well, I'll tell you this. You, as I could tell you that we did it first, but that's fine. always like to talk a little bit about life before we get into the news. We separated in the cultural hall in an old school way, like blocks. So you'll hear a little bell that will go, and
right.
then we switch into the actual news. In the third block of this, for us, I'm not sure that will be the case for you. You're welcome to it if you'd like.
We'll send people over your way if it's not there. So
okay. We do a Saints Who Sport third block, talking all about the Paralympians who are members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and where they're from and some of their stories. A fascinating sort of look at most Paralympians not born that way, have some sort of adversity that they've overcome that came to them at a later point in their life. So that is the third block for us. As far as reporting from my life, my wife left me last night.
Wow.
Yeah.
How you doing, man?
Yeah, I'm good. She's on
good.
vacation.
Oh, she's coming back. Okay.
Well, I mean, you know, as I do, it's always iffy, right?
Right. I mean, some have that story,
Yeah.
Richie, that she said she was just going on a trip.
Yep.
And I haven't seen her
Yeah,
for years. Yeah.
But she going to visit her pops out in Florida. Her entire family does not understand how my profession works because they're like, "Hey, in 2 weeks, can we go to Florida?" And it's like, no, in a year and 2 weeks, maybe. They went without me. And I literally, this is how last night went. I dropped her off at the airport, her and her sister, and immediately went to Harmon's, you know, the grocer in my neighborhood.
Yeah.
And I bought myself 4 boxes of sugary cereal and a half gallon of ice cream and managed to eat almost the entire box of Tricks because they are for kids.
And you felt terrible, but it was a beautiful terrible, right?
Nope, I did not feel terrible, not one bit. Not one.
So what are the other flavors you got?
I got the Reese's Puffs.
Okay, solid.
Rocking some Lucky Charms and some Fruit Loops because I followed my nose and it always knows and led me straight to Fruit Loops. So
the 80s kids know all the commercials, right?
Yeah.
They've weaved their grasp in our brains.
Yeah, no marketers didn't try to appeal just to kids. They did not. They were not just selling that to all that. So yeah, I ate nearly a bowl of that, and then immediately because I felt not bad physically, I decided to go and clean my wife's bathroom.
Just because, or is this like a thing you do?
Well, because I felt bad, like I shouldn't just be sitting here eating the sugary cereal and living my best life. Got to punish myself too. So I cleaned the bathroom.
Nice. And so that bathroom you will not use until she gets back and finds a spotless bathroom. That's nice.
Correct.
Yeah. Good for you. You figured this marriage thing out.
Yeah.
I'm taking notes.
Sure. Yeah. It took me 2 times so far, but
hey,
that's fine. Listen,
that's mortality.
Slow learner, right?
Slow
mortality,
learner.
I guess.
Yes.
Yeah. Die one time and come back to life. I didn't know you believed in reincarnation. That's interesting.
Well, we all got our thing.
Yeah. Tell me, new with you. This is a different studio since last time I saw. We should mention these videos available on YouTube. And if you're a Patreon saint of the Cultural Hall, patreon.com/The Cultural Hall, you get to see the video. New studio backdrop. This must be in your palatial space in Utah County.
Yes. Yeah. So we're sort of midstream here. So obviously I just got these shelves installed. They will be full of all sorts of stuff that make me look smart.
Sure.
I had a couch here. It's gone. I had a bookshelf, but I'm painting this weekend.
Okay.
So this will be a whole new color. And trying to live up to the Cultural Hall standards.
Yeah.
And, So
now,
that's happening.
Now, if you win an LDS PMA award of which you are nominated, will it go there on the floating shelf?
You better believe it.
Yeah.
So we should mention that, Richie. We were both nominated for a LDS PMA award. Nobody knows what that is, but we can. That will not stop us from saying award-winning podcast when that does happen.
Yeah, if that does happen.
Oh, come on, you're a shoo-in, my brother.
Oh, come on now, come on. Now, what is your? Because you have to be nominated for a specific episode. Do you know what your specific episode?
So it was my interview with a man who has my same first name and my same middle name, Kurt Harold, but his last name is Brown. Kurt Brown, and he's currently serving as a mission president, was a bishop of a mid-singles ward in Provo, and was a dynamic leader. So we'll link to that. awesome episode, and I think it'll happen this time. I don't know. I'm feeling that way.
Okay.
So.
Okay. Now, but we're not in the same category, right?
No, we got to be very clear.
Yeah.
It's as if I'm going for, best actor and Richie's going for like best screenplay.
Sure.
So
Sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Mhm.
It's like
So
you're going for best purchased brand and trying to appropriate longevity, and
Yeah.
I'm going for actual longest running. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Whatever will get me the statue, the trophy to put on my floating shelf. I have no idea.
Yeah.
I have very low expectations, but yes, we will be an award-winning podcast after that. This Week in Mormon's not nominated for anything, but hey, listen, I'm working on it. All right.
Yeah.
We have some stellar content, as you know, Richie, which I hate to out you here, but you listen to most episodes of This Week in Mormon.
I've never heard of it. What is this?
Oh, come on.
I've never heard of it.
You love it. And every host that is part of our Avengers team here, you love every single one of them and their opinions.
Yeah, they all give me the utmost respect and are well informed about the stories.
Right, the twin siblings, Matt and Melissa, bless their hearts, they do such good work. They do tend to throw you under the bus a little more often. And so I say, hey, Richie, you have every right to also return the favor. But.
Yeah, I love when they verbatim will say what I said and know that they've listened to my episode. No attribution.
Okay, we here on out attribute any quote. Is that good enough?
Yeah. I similarly I like that in the international version that they call it articles of news. Let's get to some articles of news. And again, and I mean
technically they are articles of news.
Sure.
I mean, have you trademarked it, Richie? I mean, there's paperwork you got to go through.
I mean, I'm about to, and then serve you with a lawsuit.
Oh boy. That'll be great. If I can get a ride to the courthouse, that would be great.
I'll pick you up. I mean, Utah County Courthouse.
What are friends for?
Yeah. Hey, I'm suing you. That doesn't mean I can't give you a ride.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Another thing I can report on, Richie, is I had my first opportunity of presenting at BYU Education Week.
Oh, please and thank you. Tell me what you taught about.
Well, I taught on themes from my book, but you're not able to, mention that you have a book or that you're a writer or that you're a podcaster. You sort of have to be this like milquetoast like brand. But nonetheless, people seem to receive the content well. But I feel like BYU Education Week is like the most undersold, most valuable like institution in our faith that just doesn't get talked enough about. But people who go, they're like, oh man. How have I been missing this? So we'll get you there one day, Richie. But.
The thing for me, I'm being honest with you, the thing for me is twofold. It's during the day and during the week.
Yes.
And so there's a certain amount of my social media that gets flooded with people being, hey, I'm at Education Week. And you don't get paid for it, correct?
No, they give a little stipend. I mean, it's nothing. It's not. That's not why anybody does it. Probably.
Yeah, no, it's not $100 billion or a part of Florida. I get it. I understand what you're saying. So you do get paid. I didn't know that.
Yes.
But it is an interesting thing to me that, like, as I see the thousands upon thousands of people who attend, doesn't people have to work? That's what I think. I look at it,
and that's why.
What are we doing?
You get a gray-haired type of audience in general, right?
Sure.
However, there are some young millennials roaming around like myself. But that's the thing is it's really difficult for especially myself as a young family. Here we are, like I got to go to this campus. I want to be there all week, but hey, we got to get the kids to school, and it's really awkward time. Brand new school year, those types of things. But that's the only time that the campus is open, right? So they're kind of their hands are tied that way. But you are completely right. But it's worth every sacrifice of being there because to me, it is what General Conference should be. I mean. Let me be clear, big fan of General Conference. However, it'd be cool to have not only hear from our general authorities and prophets, seers, and revelators, but sort of have this other dynamic happening of like, hey, Jerry from Florida has got this great presentation about Isaiah and the Book of Mormon. Let's get him a room. And if you want to come listen, just having the community of followers come together and share. And so BYU Education Week does a great job at doing that. However, it's a very awkward time of the year.
Okay, I'll go sometime. Okay. I love awkward. I'll lean into it.
Yeah.
You, of course, are allowed to mention your book here. Is God disappointed in me? Spoiler answers yes. Find it on Amazon.
That was only your copy, Richie. I have specific copies that I send
flipped
out.
to the end, and in your handwriting and where you signed it, you wrote,
yes.
Yeah.
Again, be a great gag gift if I could just get one printed where it's full of just yeses, just page after page of yeses. And be like, there's your white elephant gift, right?
Expensive gag gift, but
right.
but
so worth it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Find a link to buy that book in the show notes. Going well. Are you going to write a second one?
I definitely, there will be more books in my future. Maybe not around that topic. It was, I don't know how I do a sequel necessarily, but
I can tell you, but go ahead and find your way through it.
But yeah, I got to get it, the screenplay written and then get it to the big screen and those things. But yeah, I enjoyed the experience. I think it is a phenomenal exercise for any Latter-day Saint, any individual to not only believe in their faith, but to attempt to articulate their faith. And that was what it did for me. And yeah, it was very rewarding, even though it was grueling at times.
So. The follow-up. I don't know why you don't ever ask me, because I've always got an opinion and or the answer.
Okay. What's the follow-up?
The follow-up is called "Look!" ! I already told you he's not disappointed in you. And then you share things that you've learned since you published the first book.
Yeah. Yeah, I could definitely do that. So
I mean, it's self-published, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so do what you want. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, do what I want. Absolutely. Yeah. So
look! ! How many times do I have to tell you? You sort of take on that very like Heavenly Father role, right? If we consider him to be like a father, it's the father that still is very much loving, but it's just like, if I have to tell you one more time, I'm not disappointed in you, kind of thing.
I could go there out of like remember the Chicken Soup for the Soul books where it was like, is God disappointed in me for moms or, for bishops or.
Yeah, don't do that.
Yeah. No?
No, don't.
Okay. Well, it's an idea. So
don't.
Yeah.
Yep. That's my.
All right. What are we doing next, Richie?
We're going to take a break. And then when we come back in the second block, we're going to do actual articles of news.
Imagine running a small business today. It's challenging. Imaging and internet presence is an absolute must. Even with that, you're still a small star in a bright cyber universe. Now, imagine you have someone who understands how to get your site designed for your talents and then easily searched by potential clients. Imagine Lennon Design. Whether it's strictly a website or a whole package of logo creation, advertising media, and promotional materials, Lennon Design is your partner in business. They'll test the boundaries of their imagination to create something unique for you. When you need creative, affordable design, let it be Lennon Design. Call 801-699-3022 or visit lennondesign.com.
Here in the second block of the Cultural Hall, we do actual articles of news. Hit it, Peter.
You can't lose articles of news.
And if we want to do this for how This Week in Mormons does it, we go, hey, it's been 20 minutes. Let's do a news story.
That's right. Yeah, we'll just go ahead and make a transition here, and we don't have the deep budgets like the Cultural Hall that can really make some things happen.
So if people know, and I know that he's been a contributor in letter form to This Week in Mormons, but the Pharaoh, Corey K. Ward himself, he comes on and he talks all things temples. We do episodes from time to time called the Temple Ticker, which is all about temples, tabernacles, ward houses, of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. He goes fairly in depth on temples, but because we're representing both audiences, let's high level hit a couple of temple things. One, the court has ruled in favor of Cody, Wyoming. Go ahead, Cody, Wyoming.
Yeah, let's Cody. Start digging, right?
Let's get after it, they said. A little bit ago on a Temple Ticker episode, we have been counting down to the 200th temple dedication. And I made, not prophetic, but near the approximation that the Deseret Peak Temple would be the 200th temple. And I was very quickly corrected saying, no. The number and how it's announced will be Salvador, blah, blah, blah. And then a couple weeks ago out at a stake conference, I believe. I want to say that it was Elder Anderson, maybe speaking out there.
Good guess.
Said, hey, Deseret Peak is going to be 200. And I went back to the pharaoh and I said, hey, this is what was said out in a state conference. And he said, nope, not in the order that we've got. Well, it is official now that the Deseret Peak temple that is in the Tooele Valley will be the 200th temple dedicated. And I just have to say, nailed it.
Boom. And no Moroni. Nailed it, Richie.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yes. On both fronts. But here's the deal. And you're a guy that this has changed how I look at the church, mostly for the better, sometimes for the worse. That it is not all or not always like inspiration. Sometimes it is marketing. And for them to be able to market the 200th temple dedication in the Tooele Valley, adjacent to the Salt Lake Valley, is going to be a much greater event and or, news story than for them to try and control the message in Brazil.
You think they were intentional about this, Richard?
1,000%, because it wasn't supposed to be this way.
Oh, okay. So they made some things happen, bumped some schedules up, said maybe don't put that kind of trimming on the on the walls because we need to really get this going, right? Yeah, makes sense. I mean, are they going to do? I think it'll just be something like in the next general conference, right? Of like, well, let's see, this is dedicated. It's dedicated in November, right? Like it'll sort of be this thing, right? We're about to dedicate our 200th temple, right?
Sure.
But other than that, I mean, just another dedication, right? I mean, of the house of the Lord.
No. I wholeheartedly disagree with what you're saying right now.
Fireworks. I mean, what are they going to do?
I mean, it will be a massive
swag
celebration.
Bags.
It will be a massive, no, not swag bags. Everyone gets a temple bag. And
you could literally use your swag bag, temple bag for the temple.
Do people still have temple bags?
Yeah. I mean, don't you have a bag? You take your stuff in? Or?
I do, but I don't see them marketed to folks like other things.
Oh, you have not walked into a Desert Book recently.
Yeah.
Or you're not on their email list where, there's plenty of promotion for very high-end temple bags.
Okay. So no, they're not giving away swag bags. No, it will be a massive celebration wherein I predict, if health is all right, President Nelson will dedicate the 200th temple. We as people and we as Latter-day Saints are too like celebratory oriented to not do something like this.
Yeah. So and obviously being in Tooele, it's a short car ride for President Nelson rather than, all right, we have to fly you to Brazil or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
1,000%.
Are you touring this temple?
I have not yet. Are you asking if I currently?
Well, no. Are you going to? Like, I got like this invitation in the mail, and it's all nice. And it says RSVP here, and
who
I don't know
that.
I know it says to the longest running Mormon news podcast.
So Jeff forwarded it to you. Is that what happened?
No, I don't know how I got on the list. It's weird because I think every temple has their like PR team, and some, they've reached out to you, like the St. George. Like we went to that temple open house together, and so I don't know if they share lists or what, but sometimes they reach out, sometimes they don't. And this is a good example. They reached out to me, not because I'm any better than Richie, but they didn't reach out to Richie. But I'll make sure they do reach out to Richie.
Thank you very much. And yes, I'll go to it.
Then we got to walk across to the church where they have like, refreshments for us influencer type. So.
Anything else on temples? There's obviously the complications in Vegas and McKinney, Texas. That continues.
Yes, they continue, but looks like, just court proceedings will get them through this, and we'll build those temples, and they will like it. So.
Now, let me ask you, because you sort of toe a different line than I do. You're a little bit more
go ahead, say it, Richie.
A little bit more like color in the lines. Most of this opposition is to communities saying, "Come on, you can have that there, but does it have to be 200 and some change? Does it have to be blankety blank square feet?" So my immediate response is like, missing the point, everybody within the church. Let's just build a building that the community is happy is there. Let's take the steeple down if it needs to be taken down, so that there's not like, I think I'm far more just like, I don't think that God is like 200-foot steeple, perfect, you guys are in. 190-foot steeple, you guys are out. Like, that's not it. but we fight about these things like that, or unite them with religious freedom and being able to do it. Where do you land on some of those things?
Let me ask you this, Richie. Have you ever been to an HOA meeting?
Sure.
Homeowners Association.
Yeah, they're the
right?
worst.
Yeah, they're the worst. And it brings out the worst in people as well.
Yes.
You get individuals who will get overwhelmingly, just overwhelmingly irrational about the simplest thing and how money's being spent, whatever. I kind of see this, and I know, and hang with me here, folks, but I think people in these places that are putting forward their concerns, it sort of is that dynamic on a macro scale. And in a year after this, 2 years after this, nobody is going to care, even if the church gets their way. I mean, you got the temple in, was it Boston, Massachusetts? There's all sorts of stuff going on. We had to call the Romneys in. We got to call the Marriott's in, and they got it done. And, I bet people just don't care. Or even in Utah, when they were going to build the tracks lines that's been around for decades now, all sorts of, heartache. We can't do this. And now nobody cares. And we just use it. I get what you're saying. And of course we should listen to people and do things. But at the end of the day, I think the church knows nobody's going to care in a few years. And let's just build a temple the way that we want to praise God, and everybody will be okay.
Yeah. I mean, I guess the other side of the HOA thing, I'm mostly opposed to them, except that I like that they prevent trash cars in people's front yards and outlandish things and stuff like that. But I guess I still do wonder where it's just okay, it's 210 feet and you'd like it to be 170. We can take you to court and it can be a thing that you remember that we fought for 40 feet of steeple, or we could just say, we've heard you, and 40 feet of steeple, you bet we will acquiesce to your 40 feet of steeple.
Sure. And I think they have adjusted some things in the past. Even this Desert Peak Temple, right? It was supposed to be one area. They moved it down the road and great, we'll build it here. I mean, it's just part of the process. I don't think the church should just bow to any request of the local community.
Sure.
And let's take it to court. Let's talk about it. Let's debate it. I don't think we're trying to just bury them in legal fees and get in our way, but some may claim that. So.
Yeah, it's not Cody, Wyoming, which is what they are doing there, but no, that's an for a different.
That's right.
I'm kidding, of course. The temple ticker, though, if you want more in depth and actual with some facts, Kurt and I just sort of vamping on a lot of this
with
stuff.
some facts. That's cute.
The Saints. Have you read all 3 volumes of the Saints?
Every word. How about you?
I have not. I have completely
well worth your time.
One, and then I sort of got into some other audiobooks. I really like the audio component of Saints.
They have that available, right?
And,
the thing I like about the Saints, this series, is that it's not like like The Work and the Glory. Did you ever read that?
I did not.
Historic fiction about one family kind of going through actual events, right? And so, and that's one narrative that's going through all these books of this family and these characters that some are real, some are not, right? Where this is you can take one chapter, read it, I don't know, 1,000 words, and they tell sort of one story, and then they may pick up that story later on in the book, but it's just really easy to digest it and be like, oh, that's a story I didn't know. That's cool, And so, I recommend it.
And that they're true.
Yeah, they are. It's crazy the lengths they go to make sure that it's true. They're not adding flowery words or, oh, it'd be good if it rained this day. No, if it didn't rain that day, we're not saying it rained that day. So,
yeah. Volume 4 out by Halloween. It will be. It's at the presses now. This, of course, let known at Education Week. One of the sessions was about how they write the stories and how they make it accurate and why they do it, and the literal teams and teams of people that pour into not leading saints, that pour into this whole thing. Interesting also to note that it will go up until the year 2020.
Yeah, so this is the last volume, right?
Yep. For now,
maybe in another 20 years, they'll talk about the boom of the LDS podcasting that
could be,
and they'll tell your story, Richie. So,
so looking forward to that. Saints Volume 4. People can get the hardback. Most people will just read it. You can get it in the app, which I think is cool. a great sort of family home evening thing, if that's the way that you like to do something like that, or just listen to it on a road trip. That's how I found my way through the volume 1. And I've actually listened to volume 1 a couple of times just because I like
Nice.
church history and I like its approach, and it feels easy. It doesn't feel like I'm like, oh boy, here we go. Let's go.
And what I love about this series, my favorite part of church history, which I love, the Restoration and Joseph Smith and those things, but like more contemporary church history, like learning about the church in the during World War II or these things, or the David O. McKay years. So I love learning more about that stuff. So
other news stories, perhaps, that you have. Anything?
I don't know. Is there more that needs to be said about the secret lives of Mormon wives that is sort of all the talk in the socials right now? I know you've touched on it a little bit. I think some of our co-hosts at This Week in Mormons have touched on it. Anything we're missing? Or
I mean, it's everywhere. A couple of them showed up on a Utah kind of talk show and said, "Listen, don't judge us until you've watched the show."
Yeah.
To which everyone went, "Oh no, I'm judging you already."
No,
I will
allow
watch
me.
the show.
Yeah.
It is, from a national perspective, still just continuing to be written about and questions about, and all of the things as we count down till the 6th of September. Here in the Cultural Hall, we're having an all-night slumber party. There will be
at your house, Richie, or where you doing this?
No, virtual. You get to do it at your own house.
Gotcha.
But we are going to do the night, midnight of the 6th. So that's technically the morning of the 6th. We will start watching the episodes, and with various co-hosts, not those that are regular, I will visit with people who used to be members of the church and current members of the church and various folks. And we will record throughout the night an episode for each of the episodes of Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. And that is 6 episodes in the middle of the night, and they'll come out as soon as they're done.
And so they're dropping the full season all at once, or there'll be more after this?
Nope,
I guess
all at once.
They'll get re-upped if it is so successful, right?
I mean, it's a train wreck. It's going to be successful. The church has spoken out and said, this does not represent us and our faith. I don't agree with that. I think that there are aspects of this that very much represents our faith.
Yeah. Well, I think they're starting from a place of like the tenets of our faith, right? It's not like,
yeah, we are not fans of swinging, if that's what you're sort of talking
and
about.
I know that like some of these ladies on have been involved with swinging things, but I get the impression it's not like all of them. I think Hulu wants you to think like, we are taking you into the underground swinging world.
Sure.
But I don't know.
But I do think that what you'll see and play out, and what I'm interested to see about this whole series is, how we split hairs?
Mm-hmm.
I think that you're going to see a lot of hair splitting, and people will go, "Oh, I can't believe that," as they drink a dirty soda and tell people to live the word of wisdom.
Yeah.
For
sure. Yeah. I'm kind of curious, like what I don't know, like what I kind of wonder if it's going to have an opposite, like maybe a long-term, a positive response, understanding of the church. Because right now, I mean, you can go other places even in our own country and say, who are Mormons or Latter-day Saints, but polygamous, right? At least we're swinging the other. I'm sorry, no pun intended.
Yeah, no, that
at least
was
we're going
that was brilliant. I thought, but he didn't mean it, everybody.
Yeah. At least I'll just own it. At least we're swinging the other way, and it's more of like, like these people actually are a little risque. This is interesting. And then maybe we'll find a happy middle there that be like, no, actually, we're just normal people. Like, oh, cool, great.
Yeah, I mean, I'm of the mind that anything can be positive. There's all these outlandish stories, and then people go, well, wait a minute. I know Kurt from growing up, and Kurt wasn't like this, and start to have a conversation and start to learn more about the gospel, and an opportunity, as people being inquisitive to have the Spirit in their lives, things like that. I'm sure some of that. I think that there are some people, unfortunately, that will watch this and go, yep, crazy, just like I thought. And, that's unfortunate. But I do think that anytime the church is being spoken of, to some extent, there can be positive things that are brought out of it.
Yeah.
Yep. Another quick story worth mentioning: the 2025 Come Follow Me manual is now available online.
Boom.
They are not printing them, so all y'all that like to get them on the first or second Sundays of the year, who needs a manual? Raise your hand. That's not happening.
Wow.
It will all be online.
Not even in the distribution center?
I mean, they'll be available for purchase. Is that what you're asking?
Yes. So you
Yeah.
can go and purchase one, but they're not handing
but they're
out,
not doing that at all. They're
Mhm.
not doing that at all. You can actually get one if you request them at no cost to the unit, but it's a whole procedure. Don't make your executive secretary go through that. Just use the
submitting
app.
receipts and
Come on.
Yeah.
The whole thing.
Yeah.
So that's
great.
exciting. That's out. It's Doctrine and Covenants next year, y'all. So get ready for that. Know that there will be lots of people that will say, "Oh, it feels different this year because now we own the Kirtland Temple and various things with that." And I do think that that's exciting.
Maybe some more videos will be in our curriculum. Here I am in the Kirtland Temple. Right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
What's I mean, you love church history, right? I mean,
I do.
Is this your favorite year, or do you have a
It
favorite?
is.
I know you're not
It is
supposed
my
to have
favorite
it.
year.
Yeah?
No,
good.
I don't care if you're supposed to. It's not Old Testament, that's for sure. That's the year of when I go in and go, who? Huh? What?
All right, let's
What?
get through this, right?
Come on. And
Yeah.
then people are like, and then I always feel like the people that are like, this is my favorite year. I'm like, okay. This is your favorite year. All right.
It's like this. There's so many of those like passive flexes in our community culture.
Yes.
It's like, oh, I just can't get enough of Isaiah. Like, really? Come
Yeah.
on. You take Isaiah over like Helaman, I
Right.
mean, or the war chapters. Come on, man.
Sure. Speaking of war, my wife and I never fight. We've never fought in the whole time. Shut up.
The other day when we were deep in our family scripture study. No, come on.
How boring if you never fought. Some of the funniest times that we've had, it's been fighting. Not that we fight. Not that my wife and I.
You're right.
We don't do
She did leave you, but
she
it should be
exactly.
temporarily.
It says it's temporary.
One story I want to highlight here is, you remember the guy, man, what's his name? The guy that does the Johansson. He does the portraits of all missionaries who've passed away while serving a mission, which is just
JR is his first name. Is that
JR? Yeah, JR Johansson.
Yep.
79 years old from Huntsville, phenomenal city in Utah.
Little township, small, outside of Ogden.
So JR is releasing a new book showcasing the dozen of missionaries he painted who have died while serving. So, man, that is something I need in my bookshelf. So I just love these, members just taking the extra stride of giving back and highlighting some people who've given the ultimate sacrifice. So
yeah, the book called These Angels Among Us. There'll be a link in the show notes for this and all the stories. You can actually, I think, pre-purchase it. But he has painted these portraits of these missionaries at no cost to the families.
Right. Yeah.
167 missionaries over the past 10 years. Talks about how he feels like it was God's calling for him in his talent. And then the way that he said, oh, hey, this is what I'm going to do. Doesn't take compensation for his time. The money that he makes off of things like the books are the way that he continues to be able to support himself and be able to buy the different things that he needs to be able to do these portraits. But pretty remarkable.
Yeah. You haven't interviewed him, have you?
I have not and want to. That is definitely something that with that news story, I have said, yeah, I definitely want to do that.
It'd be great.
Going back very quickly to the Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, there was a quick story about how much they're able to make as influencers, which brings us to all the things of influencers. And here's the deal. Thousands. Influencers make thousands. If you have lots of followers and they want access to your audience, people will pay you thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
So,
it is a full-time job. And like a full-time, I live in neighborhoods with doctors and lawyers job.
Yeah. Yeah. And a lot of work and comes and goes and thousands of dollars. So these articles that are like, do you know how much? Thousands. They make thousands. They make a lot of money. They make a lot of money doing it. It's part of why they do it. And the dangerous sort of slope of why they do it, which is why I think it's sometimes pretty sad. I think that sometimes people can't get out of their own way, right? You get sort of and you know people within the LDS sphere, Kurt, I know, whom have sort of fallen in love with the praise and the
Mhm.
accolades of, oh my gosh, you're this, you're this, you're this. and then they become something that I believe is genuinely not them because they have to chase a dollar rather than being,
Yeah,
genuine.
it's definitely the temptation, right? And you remember there's all this concern about like child actors, in Hollywood, and this so and so's on cocaine. Like, who's surprised? Childhood actor, right? And I just worry, and I'm sure these influencers have certain, is there. Hey, we're going on a family camping trip. Oh, look at Johnny over there struggling to open up the marshmallows. Like there's some mental health is gonna kind of hit for some of these children of influencers who sort of grew up in this family where mom was always recording, and again, I'm sure they do some things and have boundaries, or at least I hope they do, but it's a tricky industry, and that where we've not been before. So
yeah. I mean, look no further than like what you're talking about, Ruby Frankie. Jeez.
right. Yes.
Oh my gosh. I mean, that is just a tragic, horrible story about the kids feeling the impact of mom being swept away in social media fandom.
Right. And it makes me, I almost expected her to get to a place where it's like, you know what, I'm going to reassess life, maybe step back for several decades and do something else. But, here she is. No judgment to her. I'm sure she's processed that and gotten help. At least I hope she has. So, yeah.
All judgment to her. Are you kidding
That's right.
me? I watched
I've
that.
got my own problems, Richie.
I watched that documentary. My gosh. I also listened to a whole podcast about it. I think maybe we leave on this unless you have something that you would really like.
I got a little one here, but I'll just make
maybe
that
it's the same one. You tell me.
I want to just highlight that BYU announced their fall 2024 devotional and forum schedule.
That's not what I had. Anyone of particular note?
Obviously, President Shane Reese, the president of BYU, and his wife Wendy are doing the first devotional of the semester, as they always do. And then Elder Stevenson will be the following week. But then they have some fascinating people who maybe aren't, from our faith tradition. Like I assume David French from New York Times, who's a best-selling author, is coming, and Dallas Jenkins, October 29th, creator, producer, and director of The Chosen. That's a series worth having a sleepover and binging. But he'll be speaking as well. So yeah, I appreciate, I'm getting that age. I appreciate the BYU devotional and forum a little bit more. So
yeah, Dallas Jenkins, previous guest of the Cultural Hall. You'll be able to see that episode. Fascinating that when I interviewed him, it was before everything hit, and he's like, "Hey, if you want to have a conversation again, I'd love to be able to visit with you." And now
you can't reach him. Right?
Can't get the email opened.
We got to get you down. You haven't been on the set yet, have you?
To Goshen?
Goshen.
Nope. Oh my gosh. No, I have not.
I've been there. It's awesome. We should get you there. So
this is the thing that I was going to say. We leave it on. The church has now made a resource here in Salt Lake just this last week. It was the National Veterans Golden Age Games. It's athletic competitions for veterans 55 and older, which, by the way, I DJ'd several events for those veterans. Very, very
nice.
fun. Veterans from all over. I did the biking events. The church has come out and said, hey, you know what? We've got a support initiative that was organized by the church's Military Relations, Chaplain Services, and Prison Ministries Division, and it's for all veterans, not just United States veterans. It is identifying and sharing resources for things that veterans face. Things like veteran peer support and recognition, family services and counseling resources, references for veterans benefits, employment resources, networking and recreational opportunities, missionary and service opportunities, military relations missionaries, and support for local church leadership. A stake calling can be a stake military relations specialist, and you can find more by going to the church's Military Chaplain Services and Prison Ministries Division at churchofjesuschrist.org, or send them an email, veteransupport@churchofjesuschrist.org. That's it. And that's all I got.
That's it.
So is this the end for you, or are you going to have Saints Who Sport in the third block?
We're not quite to that level yet, but we'll get there, Richie. We'll get there. I do want to just insert that both of us are going to be highlighting an interview focused on a new film coming out, faith-based film called Faith of Angels, tickets are going on sale for this film, and so as people see that pop up, give it a try, and then you can listen to our respective interviews with people involved there, Garrett Batty and others, and it's a great film.
Did you interview others?
Yeah, I interviewed the Joshua, the boy who got lost in the mine. He is now in his 40s, and he's a stake president in Taylorsville. So yeah, we had him on Leading Saints, talked all things leadership, and it's part of his, his journey as a young boy getting lost in the mine. But it's now a film. So. And
people can request the film to be played in their community.
Yeah.
Why can't I think Faith of Angels?
Faith
right?
of Angels, yeah.
Yeah, Faith of Angels. For some reason, I was struggling on the title. You can go to faith-of-angels.com and be able to do that. Garrett promised he was going to connect me with Josh. He has not yet done that. Okay. This is publicly calling him out. All right. So,
well, thanks, Richie. This is fun.
Thank you. You don't get to do the outro because it's not the end for me, and you're not doing. How do you end it on your?
Well, if I'd love people to come check out This Week in Mormons. We have a great host lineup, regardless of what Richie says. And
I think they're great.
They are great. They are great. And you can reach us at contact@thisweekinmormons, and listen to some unique perspectives on the news, and always come back here to the Culture Hall and do the same.
Yep. We're going to take a break here on the Cultural Hall. Coming back in the third block, it is Saints Who Sport. Curtis, which is not your real name. God bless.
God bless.
BestDJinUtah.com is the website. That is where you go if you would like me to come and DJ your event. Now, will I do a family reunion where you all wear the same t-shirts? You bet I will. Will I travel to wherever you're at? Uh-huh. Am I reasonable as far as what I cost? Yes. Yes. Do I bring a good time? Yeah, all the things. Listen, Best DJ in Utah. It's my company. It's a thing I do that allows me to be able to have the time to do the Cultural Hall. So if someone's getting married, you think, man, they need a great DJ. You're throwing a party, whether it's a 50th or 60th or 40th or 20th or whatever the party is. I've done them all and would love to be able to do that. An anniversary party, certainly done those. I did a baptism in 2023. Yeah, we did a big dance party at a baptism. Spoiler, not a Mormon baptism, but it was fun nonetheless. BestDJinUtah.com is a website. I will get back to you within 24 hours with a quote. Come on now. BestDJinUtah.com. Here in the third block of the Cultural Hall, it is a Saints Who Sport. So we welcome him in from the state on the other side of the Rockies. I don't know. I tried to make it sound really a lot more than
from the other side of the Rockies. This is Chris West.
The old C-Dub, the sheriff. I got nothing. How are you, sir?
No, I'm great. You got to drop that sheriff thing. It just doesn't
Listen,
work.
it will stick. Something will stick, and you will have a nickname. Thus let it be written. Thus let it be said. Chris comes in and talks about all things around Saints Who Sport. And that could be anything from college sports, which if you're watching this on YouTube or you are a Patreon Saint of the Cultural Hall, you are noticing that he's wearing his Air Force shirt because it's the first day of college football, or ish.
I guess the official one. Yeah, it's the official. They were playing last weekend too, but sure. It's the official weekend.
Yeah, my alma mater got it handed to them by the University of Utah last night. I don't know what the final score was, but at halftime was 34-0. So I'm sure that they lost in a big significant manner. When I watched it on the news and they were talking like, oh, you're going up against the University of Utah. How do you feel? And they were every interview essentially just sounded like, I mean, we're lucky to play the game.
It's like, I'm glad I got legs. That's basically what you boil it down to.
Yeah.
At least I got some. Well, that spoil it even worse for you, Richie. It was 49-0.
Well, okay. So we did better in the second half. Twice as good in the second half.
Better, yes. They held them to half as many. Yeah, that's only because they pulled their starters off and put on their bench warmers to take care of the rest.
They brought in the high school team that's going to feed into the University of Utah and said, "Let's do this."
Yep.
So we talk all around Saints Who Sport. You can find all the links to the different things that we'll talk about in the show notes. Are we comprehensive? Do we include every Saint Who Sports? Well, no, not necessarily. Oftentimes, just because we don't know. You can email us, contact@theculturalhall.com, so that I can then forward your email to Chris, and he can make sure that he knows it, or I'll copy and paste it and send it in a message, and we can talk about that in an upcoming episode, or at very least, just be aware of those saints whom sport so that they can get a mention in a future episode.
Yeah, and we're always open to any interviews if anyone has any connections. For those of you that caught it, we had Richie release the Stephanie Ravetti interview, who was our Olympian in the Olympic rugby team. Fantastic interview. Good job, Richie, on there. Thanks. Stephanie's an amazing person. So glad that we got her here on the Cultural Hall, and hopefully we can get some other amazing saints who sport as well.
Well, and that's all thanks to you, which I hope you heard the props to you and know that I really do mean it, because I took the first sort of attack and she said, meh, and then you circled back. I don't know if this is a rugby thing, but it might be. There might be a sports analogy right now, but it's why we're a team. I don't know.
Yeah. She did the same with me, saying, right out there, hey, I left the church recently. I'm not sure if this is the right place for me. But the fact that she was even willing to say that and reply to our message, and not just ignore us, meant that, she's someone who wants to talk, and she gave it a fantastic interview. Really helps us to really understand anybody and everybody, and everyone has different feelings. And we need to acknowledge those feelings, whether they're a member of the church actively or not. And it was great. So we'd love to get more people like them. We're going to talk about some amazing people in the ParaOlympics. Those are people that unfortunately don't get the prime spotlight like all of the other Olympians that performed last month. And instead, these are some amazing ones as well. So should we dive into it, start talking about some of them?
I think we should. I just have sort of an overall question that I'm wondering that because there are various sorts of like injuries and or disabilities. Do you know what it has to be in order for someone to be a Paralympian?
So it varies. I learned a lot about this as I was reading things. Some of them, if it's a team, for example, basketball. There's a collective score that this team has to have, and each person receives a number. And that number is based on skill level and the level of their injury, or their level of what's the word I'm looking for? Disability that they may have. So, and then they can only have cumulative amounts. And I've forgotten what it was. I don't know if I wrote that down. No, I didn't write it down. Some of them have, like, let's say a number of 15. And so everyone gets a number between 1 and 5. And so you can't have more than that higher number, because then it might be, someone who, lost a pinky. That means, they probably will still play basketball a little better than other people who lost a leg. So there's going to be different scales with that. And then there's also different events for running, for example, of people who have different disabilities. Some that have lost, had an amputation below the knee versus above the knee, because that's a huge difference in mobility. So it might be the 800 meter, but you'll have a different event competing against different people who just have different disabilities. And the same with swimming as well. So I learned a lot. It's not just one 800 meter event. There might be several, just based on the disability that these people have.
A quick Google search taught me two other things too. Paralympians compete in 549 events across 23 disciplines, while Olympians compete in 329 events over 40 disciplines. And the Paralympics include two unique sports, which are goalball and boccia, which is an interesting thing.
I don't know goalball, but bocce ball, I actually really like it. That's a fun game. That's a really, really old game. So,
and then the other thing is, there are some athletes like Australian table tennis star Tapper, I guess that's the individual's name, no last name, Tapper, have competed in both the Olympics and the Paralympics. However, no disabled athlete has ever won a medal in both the regular and the Paralympics. So the more you know, let the rainbow go across and then the star. Let's talk about saints who are Paralympian-ish.
All right, let's get into that. So first off, we've got 8. So we have 8 Paralympians that are participating in the Olympics here right now. And if memory serves me, it's already been too many weeks. I think we had 12, 13 participating in the other Olympics a few weeks ago. So here we have 8 members, not all of them from the United States. So I'll highlight those as we go along. First off, we've got wheelchair rugby, which I would love to watch. And to be honest, Richie, I've got to say before we get into this, I have not been watching the Paralympics, but I've been hearing some great stories. I've been reading these things. I need to tune in on Peacock and watch some of this stuff because one, it's heartwarming. And two, it's cool to see how they overcome their disabilities and do things in a unique and awesome way and still are competitive. Have you watched any events?
I have not, admittedly. But I also will call myself to repentance in the same way and say, yeah, I need to. Let's do it.
Yeah, we need to support these people because they're amazing people. The first one here, we got Josh Wheeler, who's competing in wheelchair rugby. He won silver with the team here in 2021 and in 2016, so in Rio and Tokyo. What's interesting about this sport that stood out to me is it's a mixed sport, meaning both men and women are competing. So just like we saw, or as I explained before, there's a set number, a number given to you based on your disability and so forth. This is mixed. And in fact, the more women they have on their team, that's the word I'm looking for, that they have a better chance of forming a better team with a better number to compete. So basically, they encourage them to have mixed genders on this. And I'm not sure about the other team sports, but this one did stand out to me with wheelchair rugby.
A question that does remain, and this is my ignorance because I haven't watched this. Like you fall out of your wheelchair, and some are differently able to get back in their wheelchair. Is it you can't assist, or is that a referee timeout, or like is that part of the sport that you are trying to knock the other person out of the wheelchair, or are there seatbelts, or are all these questions just ignorant and showing my ridiculous?
That would be interesting. I remember seeing things in like basketball, people do fall out, and there's going to have to be some things. I bet depending on their disability, some might be more easily knocked out than others, depending on how they strap themselves in. But I don't know. That would be an interesting question, especially if we can get to, someone who does this, like Mr. Wheeler himself, to explain a lot of this. That'd be great for a lot of our listeners.
And I know you rejected the sheriff nickname, but come on, Wheeler, the wheelchair rugby. That seems like he was born for that.
There you go. Well, actually, he wasn't, in a sense that he broke his neck in a motorcycle accident in 2006. So most of these Paralympics that I'm looking through, it's from an accident that brought him into this, and they overcame that adversity. Some of them were born with other things and affected them in certain ways.
All right, so let's go to archery.
All right, archery. Yeah, this is a great one here. We've got Mr. Eric Bennett, who is a high school physics teacher. Just does that on the side, right? Yeah. But he's also competing in the Olympics in archery. But the unique thing about him, what we have here, is that he actually doesn't have his arm. So as he competes, he uses his mouth to pull back everything else and can then shoot from there. So he lost his right arm. Above the elbow. So again, above the elbow, which means you have far less mobility and can't use your prosthetics that way when he was 15. So he uses his mouth with a special little part to grab the string and pull it back and shoot from there.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy? He's won multiple medals across multiple events. Best I could see, he hasn't won anything in the Olympics, but he's competed since 2012 in the Paralympics. So this is a guy who's not given up and is going to just keep competing and do as best as he can. And he's a fantastic guy for sure.
Can you imagine having Mr. Bennett as your teacher and you're like, I don't get it. I can't do, physics. And he's like, okay, hang on. Let's talk about can't do. Let's talk about can't do. Okay, take me to wheelchair basketball.
All right, Mr. Paul Schulte. He's won 2 bronze medals as well as a gold in Tokyo on that wheelchair basketball team, and multiple world championship medals as well. This is another gentleman, just like the previous 2, that were injured in an accident, had a spinal injury at the age of 10. And so now he's in a basketball, serving in a bishopric at the moment, and is doing some amazing things. That's one I know I've watched more often, is wheelchair basketball. Pretty fascinating what some of these people can do.
Yeah, probably far more common than some of these other things that we've been talking about. Okay, all right. Yeah. I'm fascinated. Swimming.
Going to the other side of the planet, we've got members here that are competing here from New Zealand. Tupoue Neifu, she won her 100-meter backstroke in the 2020 Paralympics. So this is a miraculous person who's done a whole lot. She was hit in a hit and run and had brain bruise. So she has left side paralysis. So she can't fully use her left side. And then, think about yourself. If you can't use your left side, are you going to go jump in the water and start swimming?
No. No,
Oh
I
my
am
gosh,
not.
but she did. She did. She's awesome. She did this. And you get this next one here, Alejandra Diaz from the Dominican Republic, the first swimmer that the Dominican Republic has been able to put into the Olympics. She
Wow.
was a flag bearer in Tokyo. She's
Wow.
4'3". And
Jeez.
you've looked at a lot of these swimmers. They are tall and bulky. And here she's 4'3", and she's got brittle bone disease, which means you hit that water a little too hard, you could break something.
That's wild.
So these are some amazing people that I've just been reading this so far. It's like, why aren't we giving them greater support? In fact, let's get rid of the regular Olympics and just watch these guys, because this is more heartwarming. These are people who have really overcome a whole lot and come really far and work so hard to do some amazing things. And they're still better than me, even if they don't have an arm or a leg.
Yeah. You know, the other thing around that I am just being like called to notice is you have a list now of people that you need to hit up and say, hey, come tell us your story. Because from one, like an injury, you know, jumping into a lake or being in a hit and run, and then overcoming this, every single one of these. Plus, we get some cool accents with the New Zealand. Come on. Come on, Chris.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. It's, by my count, 6 of the 8 here were not born this way. They got into some sort of accident, usually involving a car accident or something that put them into this condition. A couple others, for example, our next one, David Blair from Eagle Mountain, Utah. He got gold in Rio and set the Olympic record, and then set the world record the year after that, and it hasn't been beaten. He has a club foot, so he was born with a club foot. So this is one that one of our competing athletes that was born with that. He competes in discus. So you can imagine, if you've watched any of that stuff, there is some fancy footwork and going into the discus, making sure that you can spin the right way. So here he's using that and setting world records in the process. So pretty amazing. And the last one, I got 2 more. So Lindi Marcusen in track and field, she is a short distance runner, 100 meters, amputated right leg after a car accident. So this is one she's got, you can imagine here with running, you're going to have some sort of prosthetic that you're going to use to run, and has done a fantastic job with that.
Well, and I know we're going to get into a couple other of these, but I just, there's so many questions around this, because how do you have the resilience, the dedication? How do you not just be like, why God, I was perfectly good? And I'm curious to know how many of these were like top of the heap athletes, and then something like this happened, and so they just, continued to be an athlete, or how many of them went, okay, so this is where I'm at. Well, what am I going to do with it? Well, I'm going to do this with it. So I'd be curious to have that conversation around some of these things.
A lot that I read about them is this was their way of overcoming that adversity, is saying, I'm going to do this now. Because a lot of them were injured when they were quite young. So, they didn't have the opportunity to be that athlete prior. But nonetheless, that doesn't diminish anything overall. Going into this next one here, Peter Cowan, he is in Canoe, and they have these special canoes that are built for them because he has lost a leg. And if you know anything about canoeing and kayaking, it's got good balance. And if you're missing part of your body, you're losing that. So they have an outrigger that's a lot of these things in this particular event, because, he's not able to balance things appropriately. So he has an outrigger on his canoe to be able to compete. And he's from New Zealand. He won silver in the World Championships, and he's competing here in the Paris Olympics right now.
Yeah. This final one, I think, to just be fascinating, because I can't imagine running and being blind, but I can't imagine being an amazing runner and being blind. But I guess I just wonder, like, do you end up being the very best because you're like, listen, I can't have anyone get in front of me because I can't see them, so I need to just get after it. Let's talk about this guy.
Yeah, Jason Smith. He is a 6-time champion, 9 world gold medals, 6 European titles. This is a guy who's done some amazing things, and he's a sprinter, 100-meter sprinter, and he's blind. He can see about 5 to 10%. That's all he can really see. And so he is a former Paralympian. He's not competing in the Olympics right now. He's a semi-retired in that sense, but he is still gaining a lot of attention. He competed in Dancing with the Stars, which, as we know here in the U.S., is a popular show, but also around the world. They have various things. I'm not sure if this is, he's Irish. I don't know if I mentioned that. And I don't know if this is specific to the UK or Ireland.
I think that
Europe.
it is. I think it's a UK or a European version of Dancing with the Stars.
Okay, got it. Well, and we've linked here in the show notes his final performance. And one of the things they did is they had the producers show part of his dance as if the way he sees it. So it's blurred out. You can't see. You might wonder, is something wrong with this? I can't see anything. They're doing that on purpose because that's what he sees. So here he's dancing, memorizing these steps because he can't see his partner and knowing here I need to step, here I need to do these things to be able to catch my partner and do this. And he won. He won. So he's competing against other people that can see fully. And here, this guy competing in the same event, blind, was able to take home that championship. So he's awesome. Reached out to him. Would love to have him on the show because just how awesome he was as a runner and the things that he's still doing in dancing, being able to show that these adversities are not going to stop him at all.
Well, and to be able to share his faith and his testimony, which is how I think he came back around, is that he did an interview and said, "Oh yeah, this is who I am. I used to do this. Paralympics are going on right now, but that's not the end of my journey." We get into professional sports now because there are quite a few Saints who sport to the NFL. We go.
Yeah, to the NFL. So we got a few things that are being pointed out. What I'm going to talk about here first is, you might have the answer here in front of you. I should have quizzed you beforehand, not told you to look at this. But to our listeners, think in your head before we give the answer. On active NFL rosters today, who has more graduates on their team, University of Utah or Brigham Young University?
So this is not necessarily members of the church, but this is
just graduates,
just graduates on their football rosters. And then, so I think I would probably say it's close, but I would probably say the University of Utah would have maybe less than 5 more than BYU.
That is correct. They've got 3 more. They have 19 on active rosters. BYU has 16. Last year, they were tied at 15. So they've kind of gone back and forth with this right now. But here they are. Utah does have the most right now. But what's interesting with this, Utah, BYU get all of the eyes on them with these things. But there are still almost 20 more graduating students that are on teams right now. So you're thinking of people like Utah State, right? Weber State, even, other people. I'm not sure.
University.
Yeah. And I don't know which schools specifically are doing this. I didn't see that in the article, but nonetheless, that puts our total at 54 who have graduated from Utah schools that are now competing in the NFL.
Any idea on how many of those either were or are members of the church?
That's going to take a lot more digging, being able to get into that, is being able to understand, like, one, were they when they went to those schools, and 2, are they still active members? That's hard to know. One, for an article that you sent me, Jaron Hall, it's now outdated. Here it was talking about how great he was, how his adversities overcome, that he's getting better and better and better. Last year, he only played 1 full game, but he didn't play very well, only 50% completion. He filled in every once in a while. Preseason, he was doing quite well. But unfortunately, this is already dated. Here we are recording on a Friday. Yesterday, on Thursday, he was waived from the Minnesota Vikings. So that number of 54 from Utah schools is now down to 53 because I don't see him. He has not been picked up by anybody. Last I checked here, as of a couple hours ago. So he may go somewhere else. He was a great guy on BYU's team, but we do have 53 others that are still competing at the moment.
It's interesting to note that listeners of the Cultural Hall include those that work for the Deseret News, because in our last Saints Who Sport, we talked about apostles who have thrown out the first pitch. And you said, hey, I'm going to need to do some research on that. They heard the Saints Who Sport episode and they said, all right, we'll look at MLB, the Major League Baseball, and see what apostles and how many and who and when and all that. And so they did the work for us. So what is the answer to the question?
All right. They dug deep. They researched everything, and they found out lucky number 13 apostles have been able to throw a first pitch. But what's interesting, actually, I should step that back. That's actually only 11 apostles. I miscounted overall, because Elder Bednar and Anderson have both done it twice. So they have both been able to throw multiple pitches here overall. So here we've got it happening many times that they've been able to do this. And we've got some elders that have been able to do that a couple of times as well. But one thing that was interesting, I point out, I've actually done this when I've taught seminary here, do my scripture Jeopardy and other church fun things. One of the questions I have is, name that apostle who broke the Red Sox curse that they had. Now, Richie, do you know that curse? Do you know what I'm talking about here?
I am more familiar with the Chicago Cubs curse than the Red Sox curse, only that they hadn't won World Series. I don't know.
Yeah, they had not done that for a long time. They call it the curse of the Bambino. So what they happened here is that they were on a championship drought from 1918 to 2004. So what that means is the curse of the Bambino is the Red Sox traded great Babe Ruth to the New York Yankees. And so it was saying that was a curse. You got rid of the Babe Ruth before he got big. And now you had a curse here for a long period of time. But Elder Perry threw out the first pitch of that first game of the season. And so, hey, maybe it was Elder Perry's special magic power here that broke that curse. And unfortunately, though, that curse was broken because they beat my hometown team in a sweep. The only time the Colorado Rockies have been to a World Series is when they got swept by the Red Sox, and they won their first World Series since 1918. So,
yeah, Elder Perry. Elder Perry had everything to do with it. That's what I'm saying.
He had everything to do with it, and it had nothing to do with my Rockies that probably shouldn't have been there in the first place, I guess.
Yeah. But got there on a fluke. Now, soccer, I want to get into this. And as a quick aside, when you hear the Great Bambino, do you always think of the Sandlot that I like?
100% of the time. Absolutely.
Yeah, there's never a time that someone says the Great Bambino that I don't think the Sultan of SWAT, the Great Bambino. Every single
yeah, that would be fun. Which coincidentally, a lot of that was filmed in Utah.
Yeah.
So a lot of locations that people know and nearby. I think there's some even close to you, Richie, that I think the actual Sandlot's not too far from you overall.
Still around.
But
Major League Soccer. Let's go there.
Yeah, let's go to this. And we'll call it professional soccer, not Major League Soccer, to confuse our listeners with MLS, in the sense that we're going to talk about Olivia Moultrie, who works professionally on the National Women's Soccer Championship. So she works and plays for them under the Portland Thorns. Now, first I was reading this, I was like, okay, what's about this here? But she's a really amazing athlete. She's 18 years old, and this is her 4th season as a professional soccer player. So thinking about that, doing some math, she's 18. This is her 4th season. So going back into this, she received a scholarship from UNC, that's University of North Carolina, at 11 years old.
My gosh.
And I don't know, maybe to the uninitiated like me, that's astounding. And everyone else goes like, oh, yeah, this happens all the time. I don't know. But for me to receive a scholarship, I have an 11-year-old and I've got a 17-year-old. My 17-year-old applying for scholarships. My 11-year-old is in 7th grade. And it's amazing. Well, she took the scholarship, but gave it back 2 years later at 13 and went, you know what? I'm gonna skip college altogether. In fact, let's just skip high school. I'm going to go pro at age 13.
Okay.
13-year-old going pro. But however, there were some regulations that were out there that said women could not go pro until they're 18, unlike the men in the MLS men's soccer league. So she took them to court and she won. She won. They was able to get that overturned. And now 20 other teams are able to compete for spots here on Major League Soccer teams and be professional athletes as well. So she was able to break down that barrier and was able to take them to court at the age of 13 with her parents being able to do this. And she unfortunately did not make the Olympic team. She was injured. She was the one who was very likely to make her spot, but she wasn't able to do that. Now, one of the things I got in reading this was, a 13-year-old going pro. That seems like there was a lot of pressure on parents to kind of push. And we hear that from a lot of people pushing sports on their kids. Is it too much and whatnot? And she actually did kind of talk about this here a little bit in bring up, how she got to it today. So to read a couple quotes, she says, I've had a lot of first and a lot of hard situations that I put myself into to get to where I am today. And I really think the backbone of it all has been my ability to have my faith and just really believing everything happens for a reason, that the decisions I feel motivated to make and compelled to make, I feel there is a reason behind those things. There may be expectations from other people, but they're never expectations that I haven't already put on myself. I'm a very ambitious person. So here she's saying, you might be looking at me and saying you should be doing this or that or the other, or you should be doing, or parents might be saying this or the other. She's like, anything you've said, I've already thought about it. I have my own ambitions. And because of that, I'm going to have my own expectations as well. I don't care what you think. So she makes it all about herself and her faith between her and her God. But that brings up another question. You got a professional athlete here, going to church. How active are they with these things? And she addresses that too. She says, with all the Sunday games, it's just not always applicable, but not making any moments I can in my day to kind of ground myself. I think that's important. The nice part about this is obviously my faith is always with me. And so it's not something I feel I have to necessarily attend. It's something I have to feel. And that reminded me of an interview that you did recently about Gen Zs. And how one of the things that was brought up here by your guest is that Gen Zs do religion differently. Spirituality, they tend to be the generation that is the most spiritual right now versus others that manifest differently. Now, we still want them coming to church and participating, of course. But however, here she is saying, hey, unfortunately, I can't attend church because of my job. This is the way it is. But that's not going to diminish my faith. I'm going to take it with me. I'm going to do everything I can. I'm going to ground myself in that. So here she is being a very spiritual person, despite not being able to attend church as often as she would like.
Yeah. I think far more like, if I can weigh in, far more how I think it needs to be, right? Because if I feel like I have to be in a building in order to feel God, I mean, if I can't be in a building, that sort of immediately disqualifies me for whatever reason. And some people are like, well, but you go to the building. And I'm not saying we don't go to a building, but I do think that there is something to it to be able to feel God in your work, in the locker room, in the mountains, in and wherever you are, as opposed to, I have to be in the pew that sort of smells like, the way that it smells and, is noisy like it is. I'm not knocking that. But I do think that to be able to access God, feel God close in all scenarios, that's the way to go. Way to go,
yeah,
Olivia.
Absolutely. And, the opposite's true too. We want you in church. God wants you in church. That's our commandment there. But nonetheless, it's, you might be able to feel those things on the ski slopes, but God wants you in church as well.
Sure.
And wants us to be there. And that's the best place to be. But, she's making doing what she can with a good, better, best. She's doing what she can with what she can. This is what she's doing. This is where she feels she needs to be. So because of that, she's going to take her faith with her.
Now, this is interesting and a sport for sure, but maybe when we think of sports, we don't automatically go here. Karate.
Yeah, this is a great one. And this is, we got two more here. So we'll wrap up this segment here pretty quickly and end this block. But karate is specifically, we're not going to go where you think you are. We're not going to go to Asia. We're not going to go to America. We're going to go to Africa. We got Junior Omatoko, 16-year-old professional karate athlete. He's won multiple champions across Africa. And this year he became the African champion. So he attributes his success to grounding again in his faith. And he says every time before his event, his father gives him a father's blessing.
Awesome.
And he says, each time he does this, I feel peace and assurance that nothing bad can happen to me and that God will bless my efforts. So he brings that faith with him. His father's supporting him in those efforts, and he take it to the mat, and he won his not even national championship. He won his continental championship earlier this year. Fantastic.
When you win a continental championship, I hope you get an oversized gold belt.
Right?
And get to say things like, "Oh, brother."
Yeah. Well, this last one I want to follow up on here. Megan Hunter, whom we actually mentioned prior to the Olympics, she was competing for a spot, unfortunately did not make that. Well, hey, you know what? Here she is as a nominee for NCAA Woman of the Year. So she's a short distance runner again or I guess they call it middle distance here at 800 meters. So even though she didn't make the Olympics, the NCAA says, yeah, well, you're a pretty great person. How about we call you Woman of the Year? So we'll see if she gets that here in the end. But nonetheless, this is a great woman who is going to do her best, and we'll probably see her in future competitions in the future as well.
Fingers crossed. All those links in the show notes available, and to the governor, to the sheriff, to the local town. I got nothing. You could be the town drunk, Chris West. Could be worse than the sheriff. Thank you for all the hard work. All of those people, any of those people, if you know them, you, the collective you, or Chris, you're able to get those. I'd love to be able to chat with any of those, especially those Paralympians as the Paralympics is going on now. Probably more difficult, but there is something about a sports story that we can all go, oh man, the rigors of the training, the analogies between sport and faith. I welcome it. So if you, that is the collective you, contact at theculturalhall.com. Send us those interview suggestions, those connections with any of these folks or others that we should. And it doesn't have to be about sports. In the greater interview sort of connectivity, let's roll that as well. Chris, since you're the third block, you get to help out with this. We hope that this episode has nourished and strengthened your body.
That if you're sick and couldn't attend, that you'll be able to listen next time.
And that when the time comes, you'll be able to travel home in safety. In the meantime, Chris at Alpine Lakes Travel, Rick McGee, Debbie Wanless, Chocolate Cake Bites Podcast, and the Tiger with a U will be saving a seat for you
on the back row.
of
of
the cultural hall.
hall.
Save me a seat, it's sure to be neat. On the back row, we